G'day folks, this is Rich Birdes from Brighter Days, based in Christchurch, with a WordPress to PowerApps demonstration. So you have a website that receives form information from external customers, and how do you put it into your Office 365 tenant or into PowerApps if you don't have something like a PowerApps portal any sort of Dynamics instance. So this is an example of how you can do that. I'll step you through the process. So what we have is in our demonstration, the way we're going to step through things, we have the WordPress form. Just on a regular WordPress site, it's using the Jetpack form. There are other forms, plugins you can use. It's just using Jetpack. So hopefully what you can take from that use of that form is, if you're using another kind of form, then that could still be possible. So just check for that. But what we do, doesn't really matter what forms processing tool we're using. It's that it comes into an Outlook email. So that's the trigger where everything kicks off in terms of the Office 365 automation. So we head over to email sent to a shared mailbox or a group email that's kind of like a distribution list or something. But then how do you get all the information out of the email into Teams as an adaptive card, into SharePoint as a list item, and then visible in PowerApps while you use Power Automate to do that. So what we're going to step through, I'll go a quick demonstration first of what that looks like, and then step you through how we've built this. We're using a few different things like adaptive cards. You don't necessarily need to use that, but it is quite cool to have that pop up in a team. So it's useful for all of your team to be able to click on something in the Teams environment where they're working and go straight into the Power App to take action with that record. It could easily be a CRM tool or Salesforce type application, doesn't matter. In this demonstration we're using SharePoint as the data source with Power Apps fronting that. So let's do a demo. Alright, so here's my magic WordPress form, and let's submit something. Let's be me just for this one. Doesn't really matter what I type in here. Alright, can I get some more? Anything you like, right? So let's submit that. Jump over, get my screens right, to web inquiries. So we've got nothing here. It's web-based team. Let's just refresh that. If you're running the Teams app, this will just pop up by default anyway into that, but it's because it's web, sometimes you got to refresh it. Let's see what's coming in. Anything? Nothing? Okay. Minutes waiting there. Basically the flow was running at the same time. So this guy here, so 46 seconds ago that ran, took 46 seconds. There's a few things in the flow that run. If I refresh this screen, that will update. So that one has succeeded, took 50 seconds in the end. But we've got a card that's come in into Teams. There's my message. So it's taken my name, the email address I had, and can I get some stuff, and they've got a whole bunch of other stuff in there as well, right? And so the idea is this pops up in your Teams message, like and share, and basically you would then click View Inquiry, and then that will open up your Power App, which will then display like a mini simple CRM response application. So right there, and I can take actions based on my SharePoint information, and then take and do stuff, right? Hopefully they'll just update and be done. Yes. And then so it could be assigned to people and tasks can happen. Okay, so it's all just magical and works. But the key is that we're using Power Automate to take the information from the email that's received. Now the email that comes in, if I can present that up for you, is, let me just drag that over for you so you can see it. So this is what the email looks like. So it's coming from WordPress, so we've only got 3 lines of information, but we've got name, email, message, and then the other so it just comes through all in the body of the email. And so that may or may not be what you need, but to break it up into these areas here in the adaptive card and inside the Power App, so they are just a message that you can see it. We use Power Automate, and the way we use Power Automate is to use strings and substrings, and also the HTML to text. So this is the kind of the heavy lifting that happens, but essentially the trigger is email. So an email comes in. Now I've put a couple of little things in there. So you could have a from this WordPress site. It's going to be no reply at, or do not reply at WordPress, something like that. But I've called it new BD web inquiry, so I know that's the message that's coming in just for this demo. And then the email that comes in, the metadata will be in UTC time, so you want to convert that to whatever time zone is applicable for your region. So we know that it's received time in the email, it's universal time as it comes in to the string, and then I also want to know that that's the source time, and I want to change it to New Zealand because I am in New Zealand. And then because that message that comes in is riddled with HTML, what I'm doing is HTML to convert HTML to text. If you don't use that one, it's quite good if you want to strip out a whole bunch of stuff around messages that you might want to do things with. So what this will do will be present the text of the information as just lines. There'll still be spaces in there, but you just won't see the HTML tags that might exist. So to show you how those three pieces look, we've run through that one we just got. So the emails come in, so the email body, it's going to come in, it's going to have, if I can find it, message, there's a message in here, in the body of the email. It may not actually show up in the message piece, but that's alright. But the HTML text that comes in, we can see the body of the email that comes in. So this is what we get in the body of the email. It's a shame you can't extend that out and drag it to make it bigger, Flow team. But basically we've got, that's the information at the bottom, the time, there's the message with the B's, the bolds, and the text and the BRs for break return, and the name email. So by using the plain text, we strip all of that extra HTML markup, and we have name, email, and message. Okay, and so then what we do, what I'm doing in this one, I'll share the substring formulas I'm using for this, because it's not an easy way. I know we're changing the way formulas and expressions can be edited in Power Automate, but it is a bit kind of funky, and it's good to have a tool like Notepad++ to use as well. But basically what I do is I use substring to get the number, the count of different text elements from the start to the end. So I basically use, in this message, I have like a breakpoint of time, colon, because I know there's always going to be a time, there's always going to be something that says message with a colon, there's going to be an email one, and a name. So depending on what your message you're receiving, you may have to change the formulas, but the idea is we basically work out the lengths of the string or the piece of text from where name finishes to where email begins, and then trim that to get that, and then when email finishes here to message to get the email address, and then trim that message, and then the message itself from message to time here to show that, and then that's how it works. So these will just show numbers, so we know the length of the message is 341 characters. The initial breakpoint from, to show you that, from name to the question mark there is only 192, so we can do a math calculation there to take the first 192 characters. If I wanted to do something towards the end, say I wanted to get the last part of the message, I could use that as well. I could take start, so basically work out the difference between 341 and 192, and that would be my starting point, and then go to 341. And so for name, I know the name is only 13 characters. That's where it stops. And so they go from 0, or sorry, from 5 or something, which is name colon, to 13 takes my name. Email starts at 25, and then the message starts at 51. to show you that piece. So I'll jump into how that actually looks in terms of the actual flow. So let's jump back. So that I've jumped into showing you that piece, but let's edit that, show you what those substrings look like. So to get the length of a message, that's a simple one. Now if you click this, you're going to get the pop out to the right hand side. We can actually see that pretty well because it's not a long formula, but we've basically got length, then your brackets, and then the body, which is the body in here. Extend that body, see, HTML to text, so body of HTML to text. And if there's spaces in the different blocks you use, they're going to have underscores in them, surrounded by stuff. And these are variables, so they will have variable, bracket, and then the name of the variable. All right, let's go down to do the breakpoint for, where time begins. So this is the length of the message that I wanted to capture if I wanted to show the whole thing. And so here, index of will give me the count of the items in the body of the HTML text to text action, and it will go from the start of the body to until it finds time colon. Now that can work. That's where you can come up with your own breakpoint. So it could be like a dot or a hyphen or a comma. Like we're using Excel, but if you think you're going to have multiple references of that, then you're going to need to work out another way to do that. So for me, I know hopefully no one's going to put time colon in the body of the message they send via this form, or they won't for this demo anyway, but it just shows you, it's not bulletproof, but it will give you something that you can work with. And then because we get the email anyway, we can go back and do work with it if we get a malformed message. So for the name, it's exactly the same. So see, to get the name piece, what I'm doing with that is not actually exactly the same, but I'm taking the index of, and then I'm subtracting some information from it. So if I go back up to, actually for the preview of it, we have, as I can see it on the other screen, hopefully you remember, if you're watching and paying attention, you have name colon, and then the person's name. And so I don't want to show name colon in my username. This is why we're putting sub in, as you can have sub or add for addition and subtraction, and then you just wrap them in brackets. So if you're used to using PowerApps formulas, this is pretty similar in terms of things. So we take the index of the body as far as the word email. So that's basically, we'll have name colon the person's name and then new line email. So we've got to the point where we know that one, and we know name, NAME colon, and a space is 6 characters. So I take the index length of everything up until email, and then I take 6 digits off it. So if it's 50, it'll be 44. So that's how we do that, and that gives me just what I need for the name. I appreciate that it might be hard to comprehend, but I'm just showing it like that. And we do the same thing for the email. This time I do add. So the reason I do that is because I want to take some of the space from the end of email and push it into my index to make my index a little bit bigger. So I've still got index HTML text, I've got email, and I'm taking 6 there as well. So I'm adding 6 more characters into it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 there. Okay. And they basically so it's basically working out the numbers of where I should be starting and where I should be ending. We do the same for message, where we have the word message, and that's just a straight, what do I do when I get to message? How many characters is that in my information? So then go to set up the new length of my whole message would be this. So that's just sub variable. So if you remember before, we had 340 and then 175 or so. So it basically that's the variable, the full length of the message, because it's a sub, so that would be, say, 350 minus 100. So basically that would give us a new number to work from. And I can do that for my name, so let's show you that one. And then we'll jump into some of the other stuff we do. So I've got substring, HTML text, and then I'm starting from 6. So substring, you name or you specify how many character or digits into the piece of text, the string, where you want the substring to start taking the text from. So here it's 6 characters in. So that's name, colon, and a space. And then in the second condition, in sort of a substring, you have to specify how many characters you want to extract. And so this is where I take the length of the beginning of the message to email, then -6. So that gives us how long the person's name should be. And that's how we can grab the name. Do exactly the same for email, which is a different starting point, a different end point, and the same for the message. And then, because I've created variables for these guys, I can then create a SharePoint item, real simple. That's the message body, in case we needed the full message. If you wanted to drop that in, you could drop that in, where I'm doing the message variables, so this is just the message body. I have a status configured for new, and then because there's a risk that there could be some spacing that happens around the name or the email, some characters that you can't really see them, but behind the scenes there'll be like a new line message. There won't be a break return HTML one, but it will be some sort of new line code that sits inside of the flow or the JSON behind it. Then I just trim it out if I can to basically just get rid of any white space either side of name and email. And then so that basically creates, so I grab all the information, grab the name, grab the email, grab the body, any questions that just ask, and then I create a SharePoint list item which feeds the Power App, but then I create an adaptive card with the Flowbot, which is a new application tool in Teams as an action, and the Flowbot creates this message here with all this other information, and you can put an action in there. So the cool thing about that, you could post just a regular message in Teams. An adaptive card, you can do other things, and this one I'm just putting a URL, but you can open calendars, you can open different applications, you can do a bit. There are a few unsupported features in there, so try, test, read the documentation on it, but to show you what we've got, the message and then the view inquiry button is JSON, right? So if you're not familiar with JSON, then now's the time to get out there and learn it, because you'll need it if you want to do these sorts of things. Basically we select with the flow channel bot, we just select the team, the channel that you want to post a message to, and then you need a JSON formula to throw things together. So we have to declare the type as an adaptive card. We just want text box for this, and then you can specify the weight, and then that's new web inquiry, just that, and then I've got an image and a person's name. It can come from a person, but because it's coming from the web, we're using the bot, it can come from another user. And I've just taken a URL of an image for the URL for the image. So I can put in, basically, I want to show in a column an image. The style is person, which means it's going to be like a circular kind of image, and then I can define the size and then the URL. So if I wanted to look up a user, I could set a variable for like my manager or something and make it look like more legit rather than just the Flowbot if I wanted to. So, but doing that for this one, and then I declare another text block right underneath it. I'll share this formula as well out in my OneDrive, so don't stress if you're thinking you need to capture it. I put in another text block with the time that came in, converted to New Zealand time, so that's, there we go, and pushed it out to longer time, and then have my text block. So that's where I grab the name of the user, the email of the user, and then the body. And I could put another block in and define it into columns again and have an actual bold, name, and then the actual user's name and an email, and then the actual email, and define it like just like what you do for this with the name here. You can have a column that runs all the way down and just have name, email, message, and then push it across. But I just threw it one under the other because I was just winging it. And then under actions, you can have more than one action if you want to. This action is defining a type of open URL, and then the title of the action is going to create your button basically. So an action is going to give you a button and an adaptive card, and then that's the title inside the button. And then because I'm using the action open URL, what's the URL that I want to go to? And that's the URL for my Power App. And I just close out the adaptive card JSON at the end, and that gives us this message, and then we can click that, and then that will go. And I need to work through maybe filtering some of this information out, so the time that we may not need that in our particular message, and maybe use an infinite scrolling gallery layout for that. But this is basically just a regular gallery with the information coming in, ordered by ID descending, and then you could put a form. I haven't got forms, I've just got a text box, multi-line, and then combo fields for users looking at the SharePoint list that controls behind the scenes here, and then that's a patch. I'll do that in another demo once I've got this looking a bit better. But there could be a form there. You could have multiple forms, like just append the form URL with the ID maybe of the item, so you've got unique forms, and then you could, rather than patching, you could just have a submit form. So that's how that works. But essentially, to run back through what we created, it is just a simple way to get information from a web site. As long as it hits your email, you can do something with it. You can calculate the type of message that comes in. If it's coming in a consistent way, like most data that comes in from web forms is going to be in a consistent structure, and so then you can work with that structure to try and clean out data to make more sense with it. Use flow or use automate for that, and then you could use a card or just create a SharePoint item with an alert, and then dive straight into PowerApps. So that's a step through. I will be posting, I'll put in the comments this slide and the JSON that you would need to make the adaptive card. And if you get any questions, just ask. Just feel free to ask. I know I've kind of rushed through it, but I just want to show the possibility that this could be done in an easy way, just using the application stack of Office 365 and then SharePoint rather than any other data source. But yeah, it is possible. Hope you enjoyed it. Any questions, please ask. Thanks.